Of course, like I said, my dad's an alcoholic. My mom, she was just basically a crazy Puerto Rican. For those who are Puerto Rican, understand what I'm talking about. My dad had a big, huge, one of those big, huge knives. And my mom, she's a fighter. She don't back down. She don't give a flip. Whoever you are. She grabbed a fork, a big, huge, one of those forks where you turn chicken over, and she was like, try me. I had to stand right between my mother and my father and asking them, hey, no, chill out, relax, relax. No, Dad, no, you don't understand. Mom, to be honest with you, that traumatized me for a while. And I was like, man, at any moment, if my dad gets more intoxicated or my mom gets even crazier, they can kill each other, you know. And in the back of my head, as I grew up, I was always protective of either my mom or my dad or my little brothers. I have 2 brothers at the time. My mom had cooked some soup, and the soup was hot, and I didn't want to eat it because it was hot. You know, I was just a kid. And my dad, again, was drunk that day. And my dad was on the table. And my mom is a very loud person. And her voice is just very annoying. Still to this day, but I love you, Mom. And she got really upset because I didn't want to eat that soup. And she told my father to deal with it. And my father did deal with it. He picked me up from the table, literally, like if I was a doll, and threw me across the wall. And I remember that day. I remember that day because not only did my father pick me up and throw me in the wall, he began hitting me and punching me and kicking me so hard, man, and just beating me up because I didn't want to eat the soup. But that's not the only thing. After my father beat me up, it was tag team action. My mom beat me up after that too. So that also stayed with me because I was like, dang, you know, at least my mom could save me or something, you know. But no, my mother was a very verbally abusive person. So, you know, I tried, after my dad went to prison, you know, my mom tried her best to try to support us, of course. And I tried my best to prove myself to my mom. I mean, I was in wrestling. I was in a lot of different sports. I was in ROTC. I was in a marching band. And not once, well, actually, yeah, one time, my mom actually went to a band rehearsal, a band thing, and embarrassed me in front of everybody. You know, my principal was right there, and I remember her embarrassed me in front of everybody and just told us to leave. And I was so hurt. She was really never there. The only thing she would do was, you're going to end up like your father, a bum in the street, a loser, an alcoholic. And growing up as a kid, hearing those things would hurt me. I was like, man, after everything I do for you, this is how you love me. Here's a story, another story with my mom. I was in 1st grade, and I put my lunchbox in there. Well, of course, my thermos leaked, which completely destroyed or messed up my pictures. When I went to show my mom the pictures, I was thinking, I was like, man, I hope my mom doesn't get mad. But knowing my mom, you know, she got upset. I remember the first hit that she did, it was just like a slap, but with a forearm, with this part of the hand, pop, and she busted my lip open, and I was just gushing out blood. There's some occasions where I didn't go to school for a week or something, or a couple days, you know, because I was so messed up, you know. And in my heart, I really wanted to tell somebody, but I was afraid that if I did, my family was going to split up, and the only person that was able to keep my family together was me. So that scared me, you know. As I talk about it, I get emotional because the only thing that I would think about was my brothers. You know, I didn't want my brothers to go through what I went through. I have to tell you now, if it wasn't for my grandma's prayers, I don't think I would be where I am today. I was young, And I remember her going to the room, and she was like, this is how you pray. You kneel down, And, she would teach me the Lord's Prayer. And I'm a very observant person, and I remember her getting down on her knees. And after that, she just started getting into the presence of the Lord, into the Spirit, and she just started interceding. And I remember her praying over me. And I remember her crying out to the Lord and asking the Lord to protect me and to protect whatever calling He has for me. And I remember those days. And I truly believe today that if it wasn't for my grandmother's prayers, and I believe with everything I have in my heart, that the Lord told her, or probably showed her in a vision or a dream, what my life was going to be. Because she knew my father's habits, and she knew how my mom was. We went to church off and on. But there was this pastor, I remember as I was growing up, he used to tell me, he said, Ivan, I want you to understand that if your mother and your father forsake you, the Lord will never forsake you. The Lord will become your father. He will become the mother that you never had. When I was a kid, that stayed with me. Just that, with my pastor, my baby pastor, I call him, because that's basically the first pastor I ever had. And I remember being a 14-year-old kid, being hurt through everything that I went through, feeling God's presence and God's love. At that time, I didn't know what it was. Now I do, And I was like, what is this? Because I don't know what's going on. But this feels so good. And I don't understand. And I remember that day, that's when I had my first personal experience with the Lord, through the power of the Holy Ghost, man. It was just amazing. And I gave my life to the Lord. There was this one Sunday morning where my mother had told me, I don't want you going to church. And I'm not going to lie. I completely rebelled against my mom that day. I was like, I don't give a flip what you say. I'm going to church. And I remember calling up my pastor. I was like, hey, listen, I'm ready to go to church. Can you come pick me up? And my pastor was like, yeah, I'll be right there. But I didn't tell him what had happened or what had occurred. And my mom got furious. She got mad and just started cussing me a storm. Just cussing a storm like no tomorrow. And you can imagine what she would say. She was throwing the F-bombs, the B-bombs, the S-bombs, a whole bunch of different bombs. Which are the curse words that she was saying. And she was basically just telling me, I don't want you going to church. Beep, with curse words in the middle of it. I'm your mother, and you need to honor me. And I said, Mom, I know I got to honor you, but I'm going to church. And the reason why I did that is because I will never forget the presence that was in that place. And I was hungry for that. I was hungry for that. I was just hungry for His presence. I was hungry for just another encounter with Him. And my mom said, I remember, she goes, all right, go to church. But you're going to see what's going to happen. And I remember the pastor was about to start preaching. And one of the elders of the church stopped him or went to him and went to go talk to his ear and told him something was happening in the church. Nobody knew what was going on. Only certain people knew what was going on. And he nodded his head and he was like, okay, no problem. And I remember him stopping the service for just a couple minutes. And I remember him saying, guys, we have an issue going on right now in the church. I need you to begin to start praying. Intercessors begin to start praying. And I'm like, okay. I didn't know what was going on. I had no idea. But I remember him looking at the side, left-hand side, because I was on his left-hand side. And I remember him saying, Ivan, I need you to come with me. And in that moment, when he mentioned my name, I already knew whatever was happening had to do with me. Whew. And when I went outside with my pastor, my mother was there with 2 sheriff's officers. I'll never forget this moment. She had called the cops. And I was 14 years old. And my mother was cursing a storm. This is outside the church, man. And I was just telling my pastor off, you know. And she basically was telling my pastor, this is my son. He needs to obey my rules. He's still a minor. And if I say he's not going to go to church, he's not going to go to church. Whew. And it's hard to talk about it because it brings back the emotions, but I remember her just telling me, if you keep on going this route, you're never going to be anything in life. If you keep on going on this route, you're never going to be anything in life. Church is never going to do anything for you, you know? And just stuff like that. And I got my head down and I'm just like, how can you embarrass me in front of these people? In front of the cops, in front of my church, which to me, it was like family to me. Because I really never had a family. And downing me, you know? And again, I was hurt. And the rage and everything just came back up. And I was like, dang, how much more can I take of this? I don't know, you know? But like the story doesn't end there, you know? That's just part of the stories that I've had, you know? At the age of 16, man, to be honest with you, I was so hurt, full of anger, full of rage because of everything that has happened in my life. There was 3 times at the age of 16 that I wanted to kill myself because I was just tired. I was tired. And in my head, I was like, man, my mother doesn't love me. My father's nowhere to be seen. My family doesn't give a snot about me. Why am I in this world? I'm not going to be anything anyways, you know? At least that's what my mother says. And when a parent tells you that, you believe it. Because that's your father. That's your mother. You know, those are the people who give birth to you. You believe stuff like that when you're a teenager, when you're a kid. You know? So as I grew up, I believed it, man. I believed I was going to be a bum in the street. I believed that I was going to end up just like my father. I believed it, man. My mom used to say stuff like that. I believed it. I would just go to work and just work. At this time, my mom was into a lot of stuff. She was seeing a lot of men. She was sleeping around, drinking, doing God knows who. And my mindset was like, you know, my mom's not really paying the bills, so I got to really work and make some money so I can support my bros. Because we really didn't have anything to eat, to be honest with you. We were living with cereal, milk, sometimes eggs, bread, peanut butter jelly sandwiches, and that's it. Because my mom would go out and spend money and whatever the heck she wanted to do, you know. But I remember this one night, I came out of working. I really wasn't supposed to work. I just came out of school, went straight to work, and they were busy, and I just decided to work on my school clothes because they were so busy. And my manager at the time, he knew that something was going on, so he allowed me to work so I didn't have to go home. I came back home at 1 o'clock in the morning, and I remember leaving the window open of my door, of my room, so my mom didn't hear me come in. And I came back from work, 1 o'clock in the morning, but I was so down and I was so depressed. And I remember just kneeling down at the bed, and I just like, and I had thoughts coming into my head. Why don't you just kill yourself? I mean, if you just kill yourself, it'll be all over. You won't have to hurt anymore. And I remember those thoughts coming in my head, and I was 16 years old. And I'm telling you, man, it's, I wanted to do it so bad because I was in so much hurt and so much pain. But I kneeled down in my bed and I just started crying. And I started remembering what my baby pastor used to tell me. Psalms 27:10. If your father forsakes you, if your mother forsakes you, you know, basically in my terms, I'm going to put it in my terms. This is the way I understood it. You know, God will pick you up and he'll become your mother and he'll become your father, you know. And I remember crying. And I remember talking to the Lord. I said, Lord, I need your help. I can't do this no more. I don't know what else to do. I can't do this no more. Show me a sign that you love me. Show me a sign that you're here. Because all I want to do is take my life. And I remember this night like if it was like yesterday. My brothers were faking sleeping we were sharing a room. We all were in one room together. And my brothers were acting like they were asleep, and I guess they overheard me cry. And both of them just came to one on one side and one on the other, and began just to hug me. And they began just to tell me, we love you. We love you for everything that you do to us. We love you. We love you. Don't go. Don't leave us. You're the only thing we got. And that night I made a decision to fight for my brothers. So when I eventually got mature in the Word, you know, I remember calling my mother, and I was crying in tears. And I just called my mom and just started crying. I said, Mom, I forgive you. And from that day on, our relationship got mended. And we just, you know, it's not 100%, I'm not going to lie, but everything takes work. So, you know, but she is starting to go back to church. You know, she's seen, she understands what she's done wrong. She's still off and on, but that's okay. You know, I believe the Lord, through prayer, God's going to change her and mess her up. And I'm praying that she will become that spiritual mom that I need.